morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, also to the SME team for the great organization. Thank you so much. We are going to talk today about a very important topic. I hope it's not too silent or too loud. If they start to make more music, just let me know and we show them how much noise manufacturing can do. And we talk about accelerating the onshore success and how to align the product portfolio towards the US location, especially in manufacturing, right? Quick about myself, after Jake already did a great introduction. My name then is Schunigl. I'm since over 10 years with Ingenics, mostly working in the area of manufacturing in our aerospace division, and I'm overseeing Mexico, Canada, and the US for the aerospace and manufacturing topics. What I mostly do is helping companies to settle down, improve their value add, and help them to stay future competitive. Quick something about Ingenics, just 2 slides where we will talk about what we are doing, where we come from. So originally it's a German company, around 40 years in the business. We will celebrate this year 20 years in the US. So we have now a long track record. We are very much localized with around 155 employees, and our cross-industry knowledge reaches from railway, medical devices, automotive, aerospace. Why I'm telling you this is because we take this knowledge for finding best practice solutions for other areas. A quick look on our portfolio. It's quite packed. We don't go into detail. It's just we have here 4 columns which we need to look at. Consulting and planning. This is everything where you talk about how big should be my warehouse, which equipment do I need, what do I need to do that I can settle down the manufacturing, and how I can ramp it up. And what I'm mostly doing is everything with production systems and with the strategic development and the site development, where you go then like, okay, we have found our potential, we know what to do, and now we need to implement it and make it better, right? In digitalization, we see it more like an enhancement, since we focus on value add and efficiency improvement. And so this is like the 5th column. I put it with intention on the end because I'm saying this is like what you do once you're already optimized and ready. So onshoring success isn't about if, it's about where. Yeah, that's a very important statement. And what we will take away today is why offshoring/onshoring fails, and how to choose the right product and US location. Yeah, and a proven framework to de-risk such investment. Yes. Why onshoring fails and succeeds is we have product decisions getting often made separately from the factory planning, and with often I mean like every time, and the cost models are without any operational reality. Yeah. The automation without a workforce strategy, which is very important in the Western economy, which we need to include, and why the onshoring is now a must, non-negotiable I called it here, is because the supply chain resilience is now a strategic priority. Yeah, we know it all. 4 or 5 years ago it was best cost, how I can optimize it. Now we talk about lead times, market proximity, be there, be ready. Onshoring is about execution and timing. I built this here up as a crossroad. So when you act now, you have in the next 6 months still time to wrap it up and recapture the 15% loss you had. And when you act late in the next 12 months, it will be already resulting in renegotiating, staying competitive in comparison to the others who did that on time. And if you do nothing, I made a nice graphic on the right side. It's really like based on real numbers. I painted it for this presentation differently. So the margin due to tariffs and customer renegotiation to stay competitive, it's really decreasing, which means you are giving off potential cash flow, which makes you powerful for the future and investment and stay on the market. Every quarter you wait, your competitors gain with that obviously ground. The real challenge we've seen, and I've seen personally, we talk about 4 companies' track record now, is that it's the operative inefficiencies. Yeah, it's not about Asian labor, it's so much more cheaper. That's the reason. First of all, that statement is not anymore fully true. And second, there are different factors you need to put in. And one of these things is, as you can see in the graph, on the bar chart, it's like you have labor with 15% differences, maybe overhead with 5% differences, but there are optimization strategies you can use to make them smaller in the impact. So to make some sample numbers, which was a unit of production of parts for refrigerators, we will talk later more about them. We had in the China-based area like $34 per unit, and here in the United States then $50. So we had 47% higher price, which would lead for any CEO to a decision not to do it, right? And we will go into deeper now with that example and see how we could optimize them. So that leads us to that not every product belongs to the US, and that's okay and that's strategic. So what are the key dimensions you should evaluate? Like labor intensity, very important, automation readiness, logistics sensitivity, energy demand, workforce skill requirement, and obviously then the volume vitality. So this will lead to outputs like location feasibility rating, cost delta by the regions, which we're going to talk about, and the risk exposure you have. The US is, due to its size, 4 manufacturing economies. We talk about Southwest, which is very automotive, EV heavy. We do the cross-border business over there. In the Northeast and in the West Coast is very high-tech, R&D driven. Where you have, for example, over in Europe, own countries for it. Here you have states for it. And in the Southeast, very labor heavy. You can have a fast ramp up. We look into the benefits, very great, very big, very fast. And in the Midwest, you look on the logistics and the good supplier density, which translates in your company with what you need. So the business cases shift by geography, and to the factors we talked about, labor, energy demand, workforce skill set, you have obviously, and I like this graph a lot, the table with the energy prices. This mostly gives already the decision where you should go and you should go, which explains the map. And I made here like some summaries of where we can add the component incentives. Yeah, this is what everyone forgets. So when you settle down in the southeast, for example, you can get 60-70% of your investment back until you come there and settle down. And these are all factors which are just not considered while making the calculation. So with the manufacturing company I consulted there, we had them definitely the result, West Coast not feasible, and then the Southeast is way more better for them. So what is the real strategic shift there from where to what? Yeah, that's the strategic shift. So the flawed approach was like, okay, where I should build a factory, that's the first question normally everyone asks, and then I move my bill of materials there. And this results mostly then in, okay, it's strategic that we manufacture there, but it's not the best. Yeah, so I will not move my product in the right quantity over there, I just want to have it that I have it. And the strategic blueprint is now more, okay, what product and processes are right for the US to take them there? Which choices I have to make versus source, and you execute on a focused economically viable plan. So the new blueprint is, I call it now filter focus finance, and these are exactly the steps how we should do it. And for the portfolio filter I brought for us today, like the onshoring relevance index, this I could create out of the customers I consulted. The formula for that is your annual volume times the value density divided by the variance times the money and labor cost. This gives you already a very good number about what you can do and how you should do it, and shows exactly which part of the manufacturing is ready to be discussed about to be onshore or offshore from the location. When we bring this down to a filter in action, I called it. It's an example from a refrigerator company who make like very nice refrigerators with screens on it. I don't want to make advertisements, I don't say the name, but what comes first, right? We decided to do the final assemblies, the premium SKUs, and the control units for it. What we left out of the country was the screws and the fasteners, right? And simple stem brackets come out of Mexico. Yeah, good market proximity, good price, perfect. And then you see already everyone learned from us taking these decisions and considering it. But due to the steps we saw in the previous slides, where I should build, oh, let's go there, you don't consider them before you take the final decision, and that's a very important part. Then, with the white goods example, we said, is the part critical? Keep it in-house. Is the automation possible for 70%? Okay, then it's US viable. Does it drive takt time or create bottlenecks? Integrated. And then you can make the US cost with the material, labor, capex, overhead, and now the subtract logistics, tariffs, and risk premium. The risk premium for each country influences very much your unit costs, and it's there and shouldn't be ignored. These are some prices as well from a real-life example, from a real product. You had $100 unit costs, 80% were $80 were logistics, some tariffs now, and the disruptions for the risk premium, which made him delays. So we had $135 per unit. In the US, he has now 195 to 100. The starting point was 115, and then we obviously had a better logistics and tariff saving. So the result is to have a real CEO level onshoring strategy, which makes you, let me say, able to decide what to do. The old model was, like I said, site selection, product mix, supply chain, and now we start talk more about what's my product, which makes sense for onshoring, how I do the vertical integration, and how I do my site selection. Out of that, we created 3 pathways to create US market competitiveness. So we talk about the module assembly, the integrated manufacturing, and the full localization. And all of these 3 pathways, they can be done step by step, or just the one you pick. They have certain impact in terms of times and costs, right? Obviously, scenario 3, I make a module assembly, has in the beginning very low cost, shoots then higher, and gets amortized during time, but then I do full localization. I probably have the biggest benefit. Depends really what your company needs in terms of operating model. Our general approach looks like it's very packed. We just talk about how it should run. Is what we talk: product, application site, building, process and equipment. And the center of gravity analysis will really help us there to say where we should stay and why. Then after the product, location, country, region, city, site. Yeah? That are the steps now. And I brought, before we go into the examples and business cases I brought for today, the onshoring success starts with aligning products to the right US location or the other way around. Also reduce time to decision, lower your onshoring risk, build competitive advantage in the right place. And I created like a little reshoring calculator. You can a little play around with that. You can send a link. It's an easy app. If you have later on questions, just reach out. Let's talk about some use cases which I was asked to bring today. And we have here the best example was the EV car manufacturer. Where everyone thinks, okay, why is the EV car manufacturer coming to the US in 2025? I thought, based on the geopolitical discussions, everything I see in the media, it's highly unattractive. When we look at him, there's 30% of his investment was state benefits, county benefits were another 30%, and national benefits another 30%. So he had 90% of his whole investment were literally coming back through benefits from the government to settle his manufacturing in the US. So after 3 years of manufacturing, it's completely amortized, and he increased, by the way, his automation of 30%, which made him way more efficient than before, and he will with that outrun his competitors. In the commercial aviation, where we see, okay, it's very manual work, screws, fastenings, nuts and bolts, need to be done in a high quality standard. They have automation potential too, and we implemented here like a Bluetooth fasteners to measure automatically the torque, so you're way more faster. You had a lead time reduction of 70%, and your ROI was reached like in 6 months. Right? With the construction equipment, a recent example I just closed in December before I got here, so I could take it here. You can see the name on the picture. Was a construction company, machine company, who said, I want to come to the US for the US. So he makes the products, he sells here in the US. And this led actually to a better product portfolio for him, and as well he recognized that he manufactures now in the US cheaper than in Europe. So he will expand and extend. The inbound and logistics network I brought because I wanted to show you how center of gravity analysis looks then in real life, and this gives you then a quite good picture where you should settle. And a good example was for the location analysis we did for a company, for a startup company. We have even found more than 5 raw materials they thought they couldn't get in the US, that they have access to, which led them as well to the decision that they are currently building their site and they are going to start manufacturing soon. And I brought a redesign operations for the EMEA, and this was more like how I can consolidate. This is everything what we talked about: supply chain proximity, supply chain resilience, right? So all the use cases we went quick through are feeding the model we just have talked about in the previous slide, right? So the US economy is very impressive, very strong. I can say this as a foreigner, and the country is big enough that you say. In other continents, you have countries, here you have states for the right thing, so let us pick the right side and help you having your success. With that I say thank you very much for the SME team for having me. I hope it benefited you guys, and let me know if you have any questions.
Okay. Going back to one of your first slides, you talked about one of the myths about really labor in the cost, and that's really what drives a lot of this. I think from a manufacturer's point of view, or someone trying to convince their C-level leadership that this isn't true, what are some talking points, or maybe a way to, just some talking points to senior levels to convince them that maybe that's not true? Do you have any tips?
Thanks. Actually, it's a great question, and the biggest explanation will come exactly from that model. When you tell the executive level what are my with clear facts and data, no emotions, what are my costs today, and how looks the final assembly when I do it, for example, in the US. Because the tariffs have a big impact. Maybe your logistics and labor is a bit cheaper, but your risk premium you are carrying right now of 10-15% are not to underestimate as well. And this is then where your real leverage comes from, plus that you say, let's step back, what is my automation potential? You know? This is very interesting. So thank you.
You said something about the available minerals in the United States that people are not familiar with, and that helps people to make decisions to onshore or inshore into the United States. What are those minerals, or how did you determine that? Were you being literally asked as they were transitioning this conversation?
So they got developed on the job because due to the customer questions I had, we tried to find for them the best operating model. So what we did was like, okay, what's important for you as your company? And this was where then it got created like the onshoring relevance index, that you said, okay, it's my annual volume, it's my volume density I need to consider, my variance and my manual labor content. These 4 factors are the ones which answers your question and in terms of what are my minimals. Is there anything else? Yeah. You're welcome. Alrighty guys, thank you. And I head over to Jake. Thanks.